Welcome to another episode of MediMag ZA, the podcast. I'm your host, Clive Maestri. Today on the show, we are thrilled to welcome Chanel Retief, a registered dietitian, founder of NutriFindy, and a true trailblazer, rather, in digital health. Now, as a finalist for Digital Health Innovator of the Year at the African Health Excellence Awards, Chanel is redefining what's possible in nutrition care. We're excited to dive into her journey, her innovative approach, and a vision for the future of nutrition care in South Africa. Welcome to the show, Chanel.
Thank you so much for having me, Clive. It's lovely to be here.
Fantastic. First off, congratulations on being named a finalist for Digital Health Innovator of the Year. What does this recognition mean to you and your work at NutriFindy?
So initially, well, actually not initially, I still don't know who nominated me, but thank you for the nomination. It's much appreciated. It's always good to be a finalist in something like this. So I think what's for me, what we tried to do the last year or two is to really digitalize what we do at the practice. So to look, after the environment and to be able to leave something for our children and for our children's children. So at NutriFundi, we decided to go to completely paperless in the last year. So everything happens on the laptop, on the tablet, emails. We don't use any printed documents unless it's like really requested by a patient. And I really think that has made a difference in our, we're much more effective. We can get things out to the patients a lot quicker. We can make changes to the stuff they need a lot quicker. And also, like in the beginning, when I started the practice, what we used to do is we would see a patient and then work on the meal plans for them, and then see them again in like maybe a week's time and then discuss it with the patient. But then it sometimes happens that the patient is maybe going on leave, or maybe my diary is very full and we don't get to each other. And then the poor patient have to wait like 2 or 3 weeks for their meal plan. So
Mhm.
what we did is I created a video. So it's just me on the video, 12 minutes, and I explain how the meal plans work. And I send this link with the meal plans to the patient. So I don't see them for a second follow up. They save money. We save the patient's money. We save the medical aids money. They still get all the benefits of how the meal plan works. And they get the video link where they can go back and listen to it again if they have any questions. So I think that's something we've done that really helps. And I always tell my patients rather use that money to come back for a follow up in 6 weeks so that we can check how you are doing and how the
Yeah.
meal plan is working for you. So I think those are the two main things we have done in the last few years.
No, I completely love it because when I read about it, I said to myself, this is so amazing because we at MediMag as well, we 100% strive to pride ourselves in going fully digital. So everything is non-paper based, it's fully digital, it's digitized. Even our interactions, I mean, it saves so much time and effort for patients and even clients. So well done on that for going green. Walk us through your digital systems, though, like GoodX enhance both
Yes.
clinician workflows and patient experiences.
So I mean, initially I did think that maybe GoodX nominated me because I work really closely with them, and they always say if they want to test something, they email it to me so that I can look through it and tell them what I think because I use the whole system. So a lot of different practitioners and clinicians use different parts of the system, whereas I've decided if I'm going to use this, I'm going to use the whole system. So we literally use it from the booking. So it's embedded in my website. I just had a baby, so I was on maternity leave for 4 months. So I disabled it for now because it was causing a bit of havoc on my website. But we're gonna switch it back on in the next month or so. So patients can book online on the website, or they can phone, or they can email, whatever, and all of that works straight from GoodX. So we book them in, and then the GoodX will ask for the medical aid details. We put that in. Everything is already in the system. I've created all the forms before. So I also do ICU work. So I have a form for my ICU patients. I have a form for my outpatients. I have follow-up forms. I have everything on there. So we
Mhm.
do that instead of writing notes. I can type it out when I see the patient in the consultation. And that's amazing. I don't have to take any paper home when I go home to do the meal plans because everything is on the cloud on my laptop, or OneDrive, or on the cloud, wherever you save it. So that's really cool. You can work on the meal plans wherever you go. You don't have to take the papers with you, which obviously also is great with the POPI compliance because papers lying around in your car is always a risk, whereas if it's on the cloud, it's saved with password, no one can access any of the records. So that's amazing. And then from there, we also do our clinical notes and then we bill on the same system. And it's a live system. So when you bill, I can immediately tell the patient, it was approved or it wasn't approved, which is amazing because patients like to know, especially towards the end of the year, they want to know, do they still have enough money left? Was it paid? Was it not paid? How much do they owe us and all of that? Yeah, and then from there, we also then get all the payments allocated from the medical aids as well. So it's in real time. As soon as I pull that, they call it an ERA, as soon as I pull that in, it will automatically allocate to the patients and I can tell them, you owe us money or you don't owe us money. Even in the hospital, when I'm in the
Mhm.
ICU, the patients have so much other things or so many other things to worry about. They don't want to still worry about whether the medical aid is paying or not. So I can quickly click on their name and I can tell them medical aid is paying so far, you don't have to worry. So I think it takes a lot of stress away from the patients. Yeah.
Such a remarkable system indeed. Wow. And you mentioned ICU. You work across both ICU and outpatient settings, Chanel. How does your approach to nutrition differ in these environments?
So that's a very interesting question. And a lot of people always look at me funny when I tell them I do both because it's not something that you find often. And when I did my master's degree, I did a course-based master's. So you had to pick subjects. And I picked sport nutrition and ICU nutrition. And the lecturers look at me like, oh, I say, lekker. Because it's not something that people would pick. They would pick stuff that goes together. But I'm a comrades runner myself, so I deal with a lot of sports patients. My husband owns a CrossFit gym, so we are in those circles. I deal a lot with that. And then on the complete opposite part of the spectrum, where we have the ICU patients, where they're sick patients, and so I always tell people I can't pick and I can't tell you which one of the two is my favorite because in the ICU it's very clinical. So I really feel that I use my degree that I've studied and I use my clinical knowledge and we are part of the MDT team with the doctors and the nurses and all of that. And I really like that. But it's a ICU. They are intubated. So we don't build that relationship with the patient. And I sometimes miss that in the ICU. Whereas with the outpatients, there you build a relationship. And that I really enjoy. I like asking my patients, not even clinical stuff, like, how was the wedding 2 weeks ago? And that I think is a big difference. And then obviously we want to keep our patients healthy so that they don't end up in the ICU. So I think the personal touch is a lot different from the outpatients and the inpatients. Like I said, I mentioned Joey is part of the outpatient practice, and that is what I strive for. I strive for an environment where the patients feel comfortable and they can come tell me that, you know what, I ate a whole piece of chocolate cake last night and it's not the end of the world. I don't want them to be scared of me. I want them to work well with me. So I
Yeah.
think that's the difference between the two. And then also what we just going back one question, what we've also done is obviously we do meal plans for each and every patient separately and from scratch. So it's not a one size fits all, but sometimes a patient need education. They just need some education on an anti-inflammatory diet or weight loss, a cholesterol diet, for instance. So they don't really have to lose weight. They just need eat more of this, eat less of this type of vibe. So we have all our diet sheets uploaded onto the GoodX system as well. And then as I'm talking to them, I can go through it and I can show them all the nice graphics and all the information and then immediately email it to them. So they have it in their inbox immediately. And I think that is where the two parts overlap. So I would see diabetics at the outpatients, I would see diabetics at the inpatients, but the knowledge and the education we provide them is the same across the board. Yeah.
No, that is remarkable. I think a comprehensive, holistic approach is definitely what medicine needs. So well done on that. And speaking of education, your PhD research now focuses on enteral nutrition for critically ill, rather adults on vasopressors. What are some key findings or innovations you've contributed to in this area?
Okay, so currently I'm still busy writing the proposal. So I'm still busy, getting everything, all the ducks in a row. But what I'm aiming to do is we long ago the research or the literature told us and the guidelines told us that you are not allowed to feed a patient if the patient is on vasopressors or inotropes. it takes all the blood away from the gut, and you can cause gut ischemia if you do feed. But now, recently, some of the publications and evidence has showed us that you can feed if you look at the dosage of the vasopressor. So you get a high dosage, medium, and a low dosage. And now the guidelines hasn't really sort of caught up with all of this. They are just still saying you have to feed cautiously. So I want to explore that part in like the medium dosage. So we know if it's a high dosage, you can't feed. If it's a low dosage, you can feed. But that medium dose is not really defined. They say feed cautiously, but what does it mean? Does it mean a low rate? Does it mean a specific feed? Does it mean you must feed parenterally instead of enterally? Like it's not defined. So yeah, I'm going to do it in 3 phases. So the first phase will be a scoping review. If I'm get ethical clearance, that's the 3 phases I want to do. I'm going to do a scoping review, which is like a meta-analysis. There's just not enough RCTs to do a meta-analysis. So we're doing a scoping. And then the second phase will be like a CAP analysis. So it's the knowledge, attitudes, and practices of dietitians in South Africa in this area. So what are they doing? Are they scared? Are they feeding? What are they feeding? That type of thing. And then thirdly, I would like them to do an intervention study. And this is obviously where I really need the ethical stuff. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to write a proposal that I can submit for ethics, where I want to compare 2 different type of feeds with each
Mm.
other, and see in that medium dosage, where does the patient tolerate and which do they tolerate better.
Now that's incredible. We definitely want to know more about this once it all gets approved, because I think that that middle balance line is not, like you say, being researched enough. So we would really love to hear about this once it's all approved and you've got the green light. Chanel, how do you turn complex clinical data into practical bedside tools, dashboards, or checklists for ICU teams?
Yeah. So it's a good question. So I would love the hospital that I work in, or the hospital groups that I work with, to also go digital. But at the moment we are not. It's still paper based. So what we do is I do all my notes clinically, and then I have to still write on the ICU chart, my notes. And I think that is really where a place where you can use the whole digital thing, where you can build in certain things. So for instance, on my forms, the moment I went paperless, I forgot to write on the ICU charts because I don't carry a pen with me anymore. So I had to make like a tick box for myself on my notes, my digital notes, and it was a required field. So I couldn't move on to the next patient, unless I've ticked that box to say I've ordered the feeds, because I have to do that by pen, and that I've written on the chart because I kept on forgetting that. So that's what I'm trying to do. And then I build it into my form. So like, did I communicate with the nurse? Did I write on the chart? Did I do this? Did I that? So I think it would be amazing if it can be built in from a hospital side. But at the moment, obviously it's not. So we are trying to do it like that. So yeah, so that we don't forget anything.
Oh, nice. So that was more or less the next question I had in mind. What are the biggest challenges you faced in implementing a digital health solutions in
Yeah.
nutrition care? And, how do you overcome them? Do you just double your notes, or how do you do that?
Yeah. So luckily we've always the dietitian part on the notes it's very limited. It's not like I can write like a whole A4. Like it's only a small part. So I've always just I do all my notes whenever still on paper, and then I would always just write my key finding and like my plan on the chart. So I mean it's not too hectic to just write that sentence on the chart. It's not too bad. But what a challenge is if the Wi-Fi is off. It's a
Yes.
big challenge. Yeah. And then also it depends on your patient population, but the ICU I work in, we tend to have an older population. They don't like it if you take photos of their charts. And if you have to get a consent from them and they have to sign on the tablet, they just can't. So
Oh,
how you overcome that is obviously the system I use is POPI compliant. So when you do take a photo of something, it's not saved on the device. It's automatically saved on the cloud, which is password protected. So I make a point of that to tell my patients, I am taking a photo of this, but I'm not saving it on the device. It's saved under a password. And so I think you have to just inform them so that they know you are thinking about this. And then also just show them nice how to sign a consent. Alternatively, what I do sometimes do, and it's the one paper I have in the office, is I have a few copies of my consent form that's printed in the ICU. If it's really an old lady or an old woman and they're really struggling, or maybe they, struggling because they are on certain medications, whatever, I let them sign the consent. I scan it immediately with the same system and I shred it in the ICU shredder. So
Mhm.
that's the only way. I mean, there's only so much you can do. So those are the two challenges I have had so far. But other than that, I haven't looked back one day. It's the best decision I've ever made.
Fantastic, which is definitely going to take us to our next question. What advice do you have to give other dietitians or healthcare professionals looking to fully digitize their practice?
So I would say just do it. Be like Nike and just do it. And also don't make it in Afrikaans uitgereik, nee. So like if you decide you want to do it, I remember I moved over on the 13th of November and I moved over the whole practice in one day, nee. So that's what I would say. Like set out a whole week, make sure that you do it, and don't just start with only the online bookings and only the clinical notes, and I'll still use this system for that. Use one system that everything is in. I even moved my accounting over from QuickBooks also over to the same system I use for my bookings. Um, and my accountant didn't know that system. So I had to make sure she's also on board. And I had meetings with the system and my accountant before I moved over so that I'm sure everyone is on board, everyone is on the same page. So
Mhm.
I would say just do it, but do your homework. So do different demos with different companies. Like, I mean, there's many companies out there. All of them are great. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Find a company that you feel comfortable with, whether it is they speak the language that you speak, or if it is because they are close to you. So if you have to go to training, you can go. If you don't like to go do online training, or if it is that maybe you are a dentist and the system is written just for a dentist, then by all means, there's many different systems. So do your homework, get demos, and then you pick a system and you stick to that one system because that's
Mhm.
ultimately what you want. You just want one system and not many that needs to like work with each other.
Absolutely. I feel like in a busy practice, especially, you don't want to be chasing paper and still having digitized and cross-referencing. I think it's going to be a big headache at the end of the day. So, like you say, choose a system, stick to it, and just make it work to the best of your ability. Looking ahead, what are your hopes and passions or even the future goals that you're hoping digital health and nutrition could provide for South Africa?
So I think, and I know it was at one of the CPDs I attended where someone else also mentioned it. And I don't think it's only in nutrition. I think it's in healthcare in general. But it would be amazing to have a database for a patient from, admissions and medications and everything so that we don't all have to ask the same questions. If I can get the allergies, for instance, quickly like this, I don't have to ask that when I do a meal plan for a patient because I would be able to pull it in. And I know there is certain countries that are starting to go to that extent, but it's going to take time in South Africa. But I think that is ultimately where we all want to go, so that we have like a electronic health record. I think that's what they call it. I think that would be amazing. So if the patient saw me for cholesterol and then the patient the next day or next week go to a doctor, the doctor can see, okay, he's already seen a dietitian. I don't need to refer again. I can even upload my meal plan to this health record and the doctor can say, yes, I'm happy. No, I'm not happy or whatever. So I think that would really help the MDT in South Africa. Yeah, so that if I can just pick anything, that's what I would pick.
Fantastic. Chanel, any final closing statements for our readers at Medimag ZA?
So at Nutrifundi, my slogan is "Let your lifestyle be your legacy," and I really do believe that in many parts of your life, not only in your nutrition but in everything that you do. Let your lifestyle be your legacy, and I think that's a big part of why I decided to go paperless because I want to be able to leave a legacy for my son that is 6 months old now. So we have to start looking at the environment.
No, thank you so much for joining us and all the best with the African Health Excellence finalists. Hopefully, you do come home with the prize. We'll be looking out for you on the night. Thank you so much for your time, Chanel.
Awesome. Thank you, Clive.